You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and riding solo tonight. Kevin's got a little commitments tonight, and Alex is usually not able to make the Friday shows, so it is just me. We are rocking and rolling, riding solo tonight, and here to help everybody get any of those questions, those comments, any of those concerns answered here as we get rolling here into championship week, that week 17. Yes, it is time for the fantasy football huddle and that bet set snap. So let's get those going. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, let's go ahead and post those in the chat and get those rocking and rolling here. And interestingly enough, right, we're a couple of games into the week, right? Usually at this point, we're looking at one game. There's already been 3 completed. There's a few more here on Saturday with a whole bunch on Sunday, and then finally, capping off on the Monday night game. But, very interesting as you start kind of taking a look at this. And, certainly some folks, the season and the championship week has certainly not started off the way that they had probably hoped here, right? The week 17, the start on that, Lamar Jackson did well for you. Patrick Mahomes did well for you. Russ did okay, but Geno, who's been pretty solid all season long, certainly did not. CJ Stroud laid kind of that goose egg. Didn't goose egg there, but laid a dud performance. Caleb Williams also not delivering a very good performance there either. So, if you started, Geno, Caleb, or CJ Stroud in your championship matchup there, a little bit tough going at that point, right? DeAndre Swift's been another guy that's been pretty solid all season long. Zach Charbonnet been pretty solid all season long, especially with Kenneth Walker out, and he was ruled out pretty early on there, and before that even kicked off, and he did not perform very well. Najee Harris certainly didn't have a great game there. Joe Mixon laid a dud there as well. Derrick Henry certainly came through there. Jaylen Warren had a pretty good game there. But the running back position didn't do a lot of favors out there either for a lot of folks that may have been looking at that. The wide receiver certainly may have been more of a dud type of range there, because if you were I don't know many folks that were really banking on Xavier Worthy in their championship week. And, if you were playing Xavier Worthy, you were really, that long shot needing some upside play more. So, really doubt anybody had Justin Watson in their fantasy lineup for championship week. But those are your top 2 scorers so far. DJ Moore and Nico Collins, again, a couple of guys that had been pretty serviceable all season long, did not even reach 10 points in half point PPR scoring. So if you were banking on that in championship week, they could be a little rough there. Same thing, George Pickens did not have a very good game. DK Metcalf did not have a good game. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Zay Flowers, Keenan Allen, all of those guys had been solid enough for you over the course of the season, and that just didn't come to pass either. We did have a Travis Kelce sighting, so good to see a Travis Kelce sighting here in championship week. Mark Andrews had a sighting there. Anybody that played, Noah Fant, Dalton Schultz, that's certainly a bit of a tougher pill to swallow at that point, needing some points to kind of climb out of that. So let's go ahead and just kind of start rocking and rolling through this. And if you guys have questions, concerns, comments, let's go ahead and take a look into that and see what those see what that looks like here as we are really gearing up here for championship weekends. So, and then just kind of before I forget and all of that, quick programming note for next week. On Monday, the boys are going to go live on Monday night, not Tuesday, right? Tuesday's the normal night. With that being New Year's Eve, we're going to go live on Monday instead. So live on the 30th, not on the 31st. Look forward to chatting with everybody there and hearing how the outcomes are here from a Week 17 championship and how that ultimately kind of looked and worked, and how those are see how many folks were able to deliver some cash and trophies down the road here. So, but yeah, should be a good slate here. Should be some interesting games here, right? Tomorrow, couple of games, 3 games kicking off. We have the Chargers, the Patriots, squaring off there, which, that's one of those that, defense, special teams. I really like the Chargers at that point there. Patriots, I don't know that what we're going to really see out of that one. Are they really trying to play spoiler? The Chargers just kind of seemingly have to kind of hold everybody off at this point to seal their fate with that. Broncos in a situation there next tomorrow afternoon with the going against the Bengals, right? Like if they win, they pretty well clinch at that point. If they lose, that still leaves the door open for the Bengals to try and sneak into the playoffs there. And then tomorrow night, you got the Cardinals and the Rams squaring off. The Cardinals have been eliminated. The Rams have pretty well clinched their division at this point, I believe. We'll double check and get the fact checker up on that one. So let's just take a peek see here and see what that looks like. So the Rams have not fully clinched the division yet. Seattle is still hanging around with that win last night. They're a half game back. So Rams win, that certainly goes a lot longer way to securing that. If they lose, that does not help the cause there for sure, right? So a lot of playoff implications in the actual NFL coming through there. We do have some questions, comments coming in here. Beautiful Bearded over on YouTube saying hello, everyone. Well, hello. Mr. Magic over on YouTube saying yo, asking for Dobbins or Spears in a full point PPR. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one, right? Like, because typically I'm not a super big fan of playing a guy coming off of IR first week that he's coming through. So that immediately makes me lean on the Tajay Spears side of things. I don't know that I'm necessarily a huge fan of also going the Tajay Spears side of it, just from the standpoint that, what that kind of looks like. But some news coming out about Gus Edwards there as well. That certainly makes that a tougher deal to try and start Gus Edwards with, because you don't want to with him being out, I believe, already this week. So seemingly J.K. Dobbins will step back into the lead role with not much competition. Vidal certainly hasn't really showcased much with the opportunities that he's been given. So I don't know that necessarily leads me to kind of go full steam there. And Tennessee does have the Jacksonville matchup, so that's a plus matchup there. Hey, Mr. Magic, I think I kind of lean to the point where I almost feel like J.K. Dobbins is more your floor type of play here. And could potentially even be the ceiling, but this is one of those that he even has been limited in practice this week, coming back from IR. Gus Edwards is out, so like things point in the right direction, but that also just makes me leery starting a guy coming off of IR for championship week there. Whereas Tajay Spears has certainly popped over the last couple of weeks and been pretty good for fantasy, but it's also been one of those that has been due to being hyper efficient and finding the end zone a couple of times there, right? Three touchdowns over the last 2 games certainly helped that out. I'm sorry, actually 4 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks, where he's averaged 2 touchdowns a week. And if he's able to find the end zone a couple of times there, you're right, he's going to be in that running back 1-2 type of range. But if he doesn't, you're looking closer to like running back 40, 50 maybe. So I think I kind of lean back to Dobbins is probably a little bit larger volume play there. Spears certainly has some flash potential. But I don't I don't know that I feel that great about leaning on either one of these, but I think I'd probably lean on Spears. But it wouldn't hurt my feelings starting Dobbins either. If Pollard is out and is downgraded out, he's still questionable at this point going into that Sunday matchup. I would go with the Spears if Pollard is out, and that makes it an easy decision. But Pollard's also a guy that has not practiced all week, so that could lean the Spears side of things. Sorry, I had to talk myself into that one. Mr. Magic also asking Cup or Guerrero. Another really good question here, right? The Cooper Cup side of things, it has been tough to start a Cooper Cup lately, right? Like a couple of games here that have been very un-Cooper Cup like. In fact, 3 of the last 4 weeks, haven't seen him break top 70 at positional scoring on a week there, right? 1 week at wide receiver 13, other weeks in the 70s, 80s, and well beyond that with that goose egg laid up a couple weeks ago. So, but it still does get tough to try and kind of move off of that one. Guerrendo's got a has been limited at practice, was limited at practice earlier today. He could be back on that one. But the fact that you've got to wait till Monday to know for sure, and if you don't have a pivot to be able to go in case he in case he is downgraded or just can't go, like that gets really tough to lean on that. So at that point, I probably lean the Cooper Cup side of things. So yeah, that's where I would lean, right? Like, I think Cup. I think Cup probably has the not carrying any injury designations. It's a plus matchup against Arizona. Guerrero has a very tough matchup against that Detroit team. This might be one of those that game gets out of hand quick, fast, in a hurry, and very well could see that to a point where the where San Francisco starts becoming far more pass heavy and reliant on the pass to try and move the ball and try and stay in that game. So I do lean the Cup side of things on that one. We got Swaggy over on YouTube. Happy holidays, asking for my friend who is the champion, who's in the championship this week, Herbert or Bryce Young at QB, Miami defense or LA defense, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts injury lowers value, or Jalen McMillan. Thank you. That is that's a lot of questions wrapped up into one there. And hopefully your friend that's in the championship is able to walk away with some cash and trophies. So let's take a look at this, and let's start with the question at QB here, and the question whether Justin Herbert, Bryce Young. It's really tough or really kind of interesting that we're in week 17, we're in championship week, and we're debating between Justin Herbert or Bryce Young, both of which were guys that were drafted way late, and in some cases not even drafted at all. So kind of interesting that we're at this point where we're asking this one. So between the two, right, both of them have seemingly plus matchups between this, right? Justin Herbert facing off against the Patriots here in New England. That game is in New England. The Patriots are kind of that neutral, slightly plus type of matchup there. There's potential for some weather, some cold, all of that being in New England this time of year. Whereas Bryce Young's at Tampa Bay. So we're going to see, weather shouldn't be that much of a factor there. Bryce Young has, been logging some full practices. He was a little bit banged up earlier in the week, but he should be good to rock and roll there. And Tampa Bay, certainly a plus matchup, allowing the second most points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks there. All of that being said, right, like Tampa Bay does not have that division wrapped up. In fact, they're on the outside looking in. currently tied with the Falcons for the for that lead in the NFC South. However, the Falcons hold the tiebreaker on it. So the Buccaneers need to win out and are going to require a Falcons loss in order to try and secure the division there. So I do think that you're going to see Tampa Bay come out hot on both sides of the ball and really try and wrap that up here. Which is a long way of saying that I think that I would lean on the Justin Herbert side of things. We've certainly seen Justin Herbert playing better ball here lately. I don't know that we're going to see a ton of passing out of that one, but Bryce Young, I just don't know that we're going to see him continue to run the ball like we've seen that one. So, I'm going to lean on the Justin Herbert side of things, but it is fairly close, right? All right, and then looking at the next one, right? We got Miami defense or the Chargers defense. Really interesting question here, right? Like both of those teams have incredibly plus matchups this week. Both of those teams have been playing fairly well lately. I know that Miami probably has the slight edge when it comes to some of the rankings on this one. And if you look at consensus rankings, Miami's probably slightly ahead of the Chargers. However, realistically, I've got these guys kind of back to back in my own rankings. I do think that I want to take the defense that's proven just to be more stout throughout the season, and that's the Chargers. So I'm going to go against the grain a little bit on this one and go with the Chargers over Miami, but I wouldn't argue with anybody that wanted to start Miami defense over the Chargers this week. So that's kind of where I'm at on that one, right? And then as far as the last one, A.J. Brown, right, and Jalen Hurts still in the concussion protocol and has been ruled out at this point. So that certainly would project to impact A.J. Brown on this one. And A.J. Brown was limited at practice, has logged a couple of limited practices, but even with Kenny Pickett being the guy under center for most of that game last week, we still saw A.J. Brown have a very, very solid week. Jalen McMillan, Jalen McMillan's a guy that's going to get in that kind of 7 to 8, maybe 9 targets when it's all said and done, which is healthy volume, right? He's got a plus matchup against Carolina. And if he's been scoring touchdowns, he's a top 24 wide receiver this season. If he doesn't, you're looking more at a wide receiver 50, 70. Like it's tough sledding at that point. So, and at that point too, right? Jaden McMillan is not the first read on that team. I think I would lean the A.J. Brown side of things on this one. But I'm also going to keep a very, very close eye on the practice reports that come out tomorrow and see what that looks like as they get ready to go into that matchup against Dallas. So it's a lean A.J. Brown because I like the upside far more there. But if that injury reports come back or things don't necessarily look that good, right? Because again, limited practice yesterday. That could certainly move that for me. But that's how I would kind of lean on that one. I'm going Herbert, the Chargers defense, and the A.J. Brown side of things. Really good question, Swaggy. Let's go ahead and hit up this one here. Michael over on YouTube saying, I love the Colts D, but I also have the Chargers going to drop one and pick up a player to block my opponent. It's a smart move to do that, right? Some of that is really just allowing the keeping somebody else from being able to play against you. There is some strategy in that one. Now I can see where the allure of the Colts is, because they're playing the Giants and Drew Lock. like has not looked very good under center there, right? Like that's who we're projecting to see as the quarterback there. But even if it's not, and it's Tommy DeVito or Tim Boyle, like it's still a great matchup for the Colts there. But Drew Lock, right, has when he started has thrown a lot of interceptions, taken a lot of sacks. Like there is a lot of potential there for points. The Chargers, yeah, they do have New England this week, and it's been a little while since we've seen them put up a very, very, very solid defensive performance. But New England is a team that I don't know that will that'll put up a ton on this one. I think that their season's fairly done. But I guess, Michael, my question is if if you've got to drop one of those, what's the likelihood that that your opponent's going to pick one of those guys up and play them against you? And then which team would you rather not be squared off against in the defensive side of things, right? Because this week, both of those defenses are kind of top 4, top 5 as far as a lot of rankings are going there. So, yeah, and I think realistically, I've got these guys kind of these two defenses kind of back to back with about a half-point differential there as far as the projections go. So, that's how I would kind of look into that one as well, right? Like, I think the Colts may be the option there just from the matchup on the other side of the ball. But would you be upset if you're staring down the Chargers as the defense you're going up against, and is your opponent able to improve that much on that one? So that's kind of where I'm at there. It's the Colts by a slight margin just because of the matchup, but I think the Chargers are a more solid defense. And it's, again, would come down to if I'm dropping one of those and my opponent picks it up, which one do I want to see less that I have to go against? So, Nino over on YouTube, what's up, my guy? Still dealing with the tough situation in this big play bonus league. Love Kyler, but he's been very inconsistent. So, question is Kyler or Knicks against Cincinnati? Okay, yeah, I certainly see that one, right? The Bo Nix certainly has the better matchup of the two. It is at Cincinnati. Kyler's at the Rams, so it's a dome type of thing. Bo Nix has looked very good, and over the last several weeks, kind of looking through that, has been really, really pretty good there. Cincinnati also a plus matchup on this one. Man, this is a toughie, right? Like, at least when we look back, we can look back and see when Kyler and the Cardinals squared off against the Rams in week 2, Kyler was QB1 on the, on that week. Bo Nix, they haven't played Cincinnati yet, so a little bit more of a wild card there. There is some of the questions and concerns that the Rams would have the adjustments coming in to potentially slow down Kyler this time around. But yeah, I think Bo Nix by about a hair is kind of where I lean on that one. But I think Kyler does present the option for the bigger playability, right? Like, I think that we may see a little bit more throws down the field. We may see him break a longer run than what Nix does. I think you'll see the Broncos really just try and limit the Cincinnati and limit Joe Burrow from being able to go crazy in that matchup. So that's kind of where I lie. I lean the Knicks side of things, but Kyler is a solid play this week. Ghostly over on YouTube asking Cup or Lad this week. That's a good one, right? The certainly not one that I thought would be down into championship week and week 17 and asking this question, whether it is Ladd McConkey or Cooper Kupp. Because if we'd asked this question about 17, 18 weeks ago, it would have been a smash Kupp and move on. But that being said, things certainly change and can change quickly, right? I don't know that I necessarily love the inconsistency that we've seen out of Kupp lately, and Ladd McConkey has been on the consistent side of things. This is one of those that where Kupp probably has the higher ceiling of the two. Ladd certainly probably seems to have the much safer floor. So in this situation, Ghostly, it would kind of depend on where my matchup is. If I'm projected to win and I just need to, kind of keep the status quo and get the 12 to 13 points, like in a half-point PPR scoring type of thing from this, I'd rather have Ladd McConkey. If I'm playing from behind, if I really need some pop, I think Cooper Kupp has the higher upside. But that will come, that one, when I would be setting the lineup, would give me some heartburn if I'm going Kupp over Ladd. But both could be solid options. I think Ladd is the safer floor in this situation for sure. Nino over on YouTube, also tight end troubles between Kincaid, Ertz, and Hunter Henry. Ertz is going for the incentives on this one. That is something to keep in mind as well, right? To see, right? Like some of these, if guys need a couple of touchdowns or 50, 100 yards type of thing, like these guys know exactly what they need coming into these last couple of weeks, and they're also whispering into the the coach's ear about what they need and what the quarterbacks as well. Like, so it's well communicated there. But between this matchup here, I mean, Kincaid, Hunter Henry, and Zach Ertz, I don't overly like the matchup between Kincaid and the Jets. We've also seen Kincaid really just not have the season that I know a lot of folks had anticipated him having here. So I do, that does concern me a little bit, right? Like it's been a long time since we've seen Dalton Kincaid finish in tight end 1 territory all the way back in week 3 against Jacksonville. I don't love the matchup here either. So that one's a tough one for me to try and go, yep, let's get at that one, right? Zach Ertz has been pretty consistent out there. He's a guy that's about a 4 receptions, 40 yards type of thing. If he gets into the end zone, he'll squeak into tight end 1 territory. If he doesn't get a touchdown, you're looking at tight end like 30. And that's going to be a rough deal for you, especially when it comes into a championship week. So let's take a look here at Hunter Henry as well, right? Hunter Henry certainly has been getting some decent target share in New England, right? Like he's been kind of consistently seeing 8 to 9 targets with the exception of week 15, but a lot of 8 to 9 targets over the last month or so, month to 5, 6 weeks type of thing. So there is a lot to be said about that. Again, if he is a guy that is going to be touchdown dependent, if you can get Hunter Henry to fall into the end zone on this one, that is your play. If he doesn't fall into the end zone, that's going to be, tight end 15 is where the ceiling moves to on that one, right? Because otherwise, while he gets 8, 9 targets, a lot of times that equates to 4 for 40, 5 for 50 type of thing. And so you're a little bit of a tougher deal there. But looking at that, I would probably lean Hunter Henry at that point between those options there. Danny over on YouTube, wide receiver 1, Jennings or Neighbors, and QB1, Goff or Darnold. Okay. So definitely some fun plays here. I get the allure behind Juwan Jennings, right? Like he has been pretty serviceable out there as far as the as far as wide receivers go, it's certainly a kind of a breath of fresh air when it came to guys that you picked up off the waiver wire late and were able to play. But this is very much the case that over the last, realistically over the last 6 weeks, Juwan Jennings is going to get you wide receiver 10 on the week or better, or he's going to get you a wide receiver 50 on the week or worse. Like, it is boom bust on this one. And I don't know that I necessarily want to live boom bust for championship week. There is a caveat and an exception to that, and I'll get into that one here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and take a look at Malik Neighbors here. And Malik Neighbors, questionable, heading into that on Sunday. He did return to practice earlier today. Says that he's hopeful to play, things like that. So there is some of that he is, if he's playing, that's the route that I'm going. I get that the Giants offense has been bad, not very good, all of those things, right? But this is a guy that over the last month his lowest targeted game is 10 targets. And so I want to get a guy that's seen that kind of volume and has the kind of explosive playmaking ability that he does, because he's a guy that could catch one and house it from just about anywhere on the field. Not saying that Juwan Jennings can't do that. I just don't see it being as likely, especially going up against Detroit. And I get Detroit's defense is banged up, all of that, but they're still finding ways to just be kind of gritty there. So I say all of that to then say this, right? So Malik Neighbors over Juwan Jennings is how I have that, kind of right off the cuff. If I need the ceiling play, right? Like if I am projected to lose, if I'm way down, then maybe I go with Juwan Jennings, just because there's probably a higher potential for a boom bust there. And if I can catch the boom, like that could be something that could salt away and really help out my fantasy championship hopes there. But at that point there, I think I'd rather roll Neighbors still and take the safer floor with upside potential as well. Okay. So there's the wide receiver part of that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the quarterbacks here and just see what that looks like. So Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, both of these guys have tougher matchups on paper, right? The Vikings playing Green Bay, Jared Goff playing the Niners. So on paper, certainly some tougher matchups here. But that being said, right, Jared Goff has found a way to just be really good. We've seen lots of big play games out of that, where the last 3 weeks, QB6, QB2, QB3, like putting up a lot of points for you, and certainly has the hot hand for sure in that one. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, has had some good games here. Matchup wise, again, a tougher matchup here. But when looking at it, Sam Darnold, a little bit more boom bust, right? QB14, QB2, QB20, QB8. I think that this one here against Green Bay, I don't know that we're going to see a super high scoring affair. I think these two teams are going to ultimately kind of chess play this one a little bit. And I don't think we're going to see that 31-29 type of matchup we saw all the way back in week 4. I think this one's probably more likely that we get a game at the like 24-21 type of deal there. Whereas Detroit, San Francisco, I really have a hard time believing that Detroit's going to put up less than 30 points in this one. And if that's the case, I think Jared Goff is close to about 300 yards passing and 2 to 3 touchdowns. So I would lean on the Jared Goff side of things there. But it is very close. And if somebody wanted to tell me that they're starting Sam Darnold over Jared Goff, I wouldn't argue at that point. Hopefully that helps, Danny. Swaggy saying thank you and happy holidays to all except for Ramondre Stevenson. So I know that you've you got burned there a few times, but Swaggy saying thank you. All righty. Mario over on YouTube saying, good evening, made it to the championship week. That is what we like to hear. It's been another season of emotions and excitement. Thank you for all the weekly content and discussion. It helped me in the decision making. Appreciate that. That's why we do it, is to hop in here and chat with y'all and see what we can do to help try and bring home some cash and trophies. So appreciate you tuning in and all the questions along the way for sure. Also, shameless plug here. We do the show year round as well. So we'll keep the Tuesday show going, 11 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, year round. And then through the off season, really start kind of looking back at some of the things through the season, but also start really prepping and gearing and looking forward to next season and getting prep work done and all of that, so that, the championship run starts in the draft type of things. And to do that takes some work beforehand. So we help guide and give our sense on players before the season even starts and all of that. So I appreciate if everybody tunes in along the way during the off season as well. Michael also saying, follow up on my last question. This is the last week for the championship, so my opponent can't use any D I drop against me. I'm just a little fearful the Pats have a more potential to score. Okay. Yeah, that's certainly a very valid point and a really good question there. So, you very well could be right. The Giants have been, I'm trying to think of a word, worse than bad, but that's about what that would be there, right? The Giants have been pretty just horrendous the last this whole season. So if you want to go with the Colts and go the streaming route on that one and drop the Chargers at that point, I don't have a problem with that one, right? Like, I think that there are right, like I went through it a little bit ago, where if it's Drew Lock starting, then the Giants and Drew Lock have certainly given up a ton of sacks, turned over the ball quite a bit. All of those things point in a very good direction for Drew Lock and for the Colts to put up a lot of points there. So I can certainly see that one, and I wouldn't mind playing that one if I had to, right? And so they certainly have more upside on that one as well. Alrighty. Nino over on YouTube, appreciate it, my guy. Sorry about all the questions, but last one. Would you bench any of Kupp, Brian Thomas Jr., Devontae Smith for Ridley versus Jacksonville? Okay. Yeah, this is a good one. Ridley against Jacksonville. So with Ridley, you're playing upside is really what you're playing there, and you're hoping for a long touchdown pass is really what you're really kind of banking on when you start that one, right? Calvin Ridley has had some decent games of late, but they haven't necessarily translated into big fantasy weeks there, right? The last week and a half point PPR scoring, wide receiver 16. Before that, it was 45, 34, 61. And that's all coming with, receptions of 20 plus yards, of at least one reception of 20 plus yards. So big play coming in there, and just, it hasn't translated to fantasy points in there. And really, for him to crack the wide receiver 30 range, it took scoring a touchdown this last week there. So I don't know that I necessarily like the volume play for Calvin Ridley, right? Because the volume play for Ridley's, 5, 6, 7 targets, maybe. That might be kind of pushing a little bit. But when we look at some of these other options here, right? Cooper Kupp, I get the not wanting to go that route right after what we've seen lately. So I wouldn't be opposed to anybody that's been burned by Cooper Kupp and wanting to make the move to Calvin Ridley, right? I probably wouldn't do it, but I can see the appeal of that one. Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts is out. I don't know that I really want to trust my championship game to Devonta Smith and Kenny Pickett. I really don't see that one coming to fruition. So let's see Brian Thomas Jr. and what that looks like here. Brian Thomas Jr. is my guy. That's the one I'm going with. I'm going to ride the hot hand for sure on this one because Brian Thomas Jr. Over the last month has seen at least double-digit targets in every single game that they've played. It hasn't really mattered if it's been Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones back there. He's getting targets and 4 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks. His worst finish was a wide receiver 28 in week 14, where he still went 8 receptions, 86 yards, which got to a wide receiver 23 finish. So you got worst case, right? Like that is outstanding. And if he falls into the end zone, I'm dealing with a wide receiver 1. I think that there is the potential for him to have a very big week this week, even against Tennessee. So I would lean the Brian Thomas Jr. side of that. That would be the guy that I would be playing out of those if I was only playing one. So that's how I would rock and roll that one, Nino. And then Michael over on YouTube saying, thanks, appreciate you always. Most welcome, guys. And that does look like that's going to take us down here to about the end of the chat. And end of the questions there. If anybody's got any additional questions, concerns, comments, let's throw those in the chat real quick and get that rocking and rolling. And before we call it a night here. Oh, I do see Terrence pop the question in here of Pollard, Dobbins, or Tracy. Okay, so really good question here. I do like Pollard on surface level, Terrence. I like Pollard the most of all of these guys. However, Pollard is questionable. He didn't practice at all this week. There's still a chance that he plays, but at that point, right, like what version are we getting there? So highly questionable plus matchup against Jacksonville. I get all of that. Tracy against Indianapolis. I don't mind that matchup. He's off the injury report. Looks like he's fully good to go. But he is in that committee with Devin Singletary. So kind of limits the upside on that one. But I think Tyrone Tracy would give you a pretty safe floor when it's all said and done. I think you've got a pretty safe running back 2 type of situation there. Is kind of where I see that. J.K. Dobbins is the wild card on this one. Traditionally, I am not a fan of playing a guy coming off of IR because I want to see what they look like for a game. Obviously, in this situation, we don't have that luxury, right? Where if we wait around to see what it looks like for a game, season's done, right? Like that's just kind of where it is. But Gus Edwards being out, J.K. Dobbins would appear to have the backfield kind of to himself. And he should have the lead role there. So I feel like it's a pretty big swing to start J.K. Dobbins in that one, but I can certainly see the allure of that. So I think Pollard's probably your safest bet on that one if he plays, right? Like I think that's probably the safest floor play. Tyrone Tracy, a very close second in that one. If you really need upside or you really need a splash play, Dobbins might be the guy. But again, that gives me a lot of heartburn thinking about starting a guy coming off of IR and placing him immediately into my lineup for championship week. So Terrence, you can kind of do with that what you will on that one. But I think Pollard and Tracy are your floor plays on that one. Kev, over on YouTube, Bills, Dolphins, Chargers, defense, special teams. A lot of questions, but especially with the Chargers defense, special teams tonight. And so looking at it, a lot of folks will have Miami ranked higher in the for defenses. They're playing Cleveland, right? I think Cleveland's pretty well just called it a day at this point, and they're just looking to get by the next 2 weeks to do that. So I do like that play there. The Chargers have been pretty solid as far as the defense goes. I do think that we could see really good one there. The Bills taking on the Jets, not as juicy as a matchup. So certainly the Dolphins, the Chargers have better matchups here that they're going against. All of that being said, I do think that these are all probably top 5, top 6 defenses when it's said and done. I think the Chargers probably give you the safer floor. I think the Dolphins give you the biggest upside on that one, and the Bills would be kind of my third place on what I'd be looking at that one there. So that's kind of where I would be at on that one. All right, let's take a look. Kev over on YouTube saying Tyreek, Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Cooper Kupp, pick 3, full point PPR. All righty. Now, Cooper Kupp's been a guy that's been a lot of conversation tonight. So, a lot of folks having some reservations about starting Cooper Kupp, and I can certainly understand that one because it has not looked pretty over the last month for him, right? That being said, I do think that Tyreek is probably a play on this one, right? He's been limited to practice all week, but he is you're kind of trending towards playing on Sunday, and I do like the big play upside that Tyreek can provide. T. Higgins, another guy that has been on the injury report, has improved. You're kind of on those reports all week long. That game is tomorrow, so we'll know 90 minutes before kickoff whether T. Higgins is good to go or not. So if Higgins is ready to play, Higgins I'm putting in there. If he doesn't go, that makes an easy decision there. But yeah, Higgins would be my kind of 1. Tyreek would be my 2. I could see a coin flip between Garrett Wilson and Cooper Kupp. It's not like that has been like Garrett Wilson's been setting the world on fire either. Again, you're going to get kind of a wide receiver 20, or you're going to get a wide receiver 50. That being said, it's a tougher-ish matchup there. I think when I'm looking at these guys and kind of projecting those guys out between Wilson and Kupp, I've got them within probably about a half point of each other, and kind of back to back in how I'm seeing things here. So I would probably lean the Garrett Wilson side of things, but it's in Buffalo, and Cooper Kupp is in the dome of SoFi. So, man, if you wanted to play the matchup with Kupp and the weather, because you did point that out there that Kupp is the only one with good weather. If you wanted to play Kupp because of the weather, I wouldn't fault you on that one. Personally, I would probably lean the Garrett Wilson side of things. Just from the standpoint, I think that the ceiling is higher, and he's had a little bit. I don't want to call it a safer floor, but he hasn't laid a goose egg all season. So it's kind of where I'm at on that one. So hopefully that helps, Kev. All righty. And then Jets saying they want to get Wilson the ball. Yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand that they want to get him the ball. Whether or not they actually do it as a um, whether they actually do that or not is a different thing because Aaron Rodgers has seemingly only has eyes for Devontae Adams again, um, and certainly kind of left left Garrett Wilson on the kind of on the sideline there, right? But all of that being said, I do still think I lean Wilson over Cup. It is close though, like really, really close. If you wanted to go Cup, I wouldn't fault it. So, alrighty. So that's kind of where I'm at there. If there's any other questions, concerns, comments, let's go ahead and throw those in. If not, we're gonna start wrapping it up and call it a night. And one of the things that do want to say thank you, and I really do appreciate everybody that's tuned in all season long, and you let us be a part of their fantasy journey this season. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in, the questions, comments, and getting to chat with y'all and interact with y'all on a weekly basis. There, it has been a pleasure for sure. Like I said, we're going to be live during the playoffs and during the off season. Bringing a lot of content here right after the do some fun stuff around the playoffs. Do some games, do some trivia type of things. So it's a good time there. And then we'll really start kind of gearing up and start looking at some of these prospects here for the rookie side of things in the NFL draft, and really kind of start get some of that dynasty stuff rolling there. But and then we'll be going all off season as well with our thoughts towards players in the upcoming 2025 fantasy season there. So make sure you're tuning in and catching those out. We'll be live every Tuesday, 11 p.m. Eastern, with the exception of this coming Tuesday. We're going to be going live on Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern. Instead of Tuesday with the New Year's and the celebrations and all of that. So we'll be going live a day early on that one. But after that, it should return to the kind of that normal schedule on the Tuesdays. All righty. Oh, and Kev getting another question in here. Kev, I think this one may be the last question, unless there's some other ones that kind of sneak in here before I am done answering it. But the question is AJ Brown or Drake London? Okay, so really good one, right? The AJ Brown certainly has, I think, probably the bigger upside here. Drake London has been fully off the injury report, but yeah, even with that being the case, like it has been rough sledding to start Drake London in your fantasy lineup for the last month. I get that they're going up against Washington, but even against matchups like Las Vegas and the Giants, like did not matter. So with that being the case, I would probably lean AJ Brown, right? He's got the hotter hand here coming in. We saw Kenny Pickett throw the ball kind of all over the place. So I could see some big things there. If you wanted to start Drake London, I wouldn't fault you for it. Washington's certainly been a plus matchup for a lot of opposing teams on the defense side of it, but I would still lean the AJ Brown side of it. I think that AJ Brown's still wide receiver 1 potential this week. I think Drake London's kind of that mid wide receiver 2 range is probably how I'm looking at that. Francis over on YouTube, London or McConkey this week. Another good one, right? Lad McConkey against New England plus matchup. Drake London against Washington again has a decent matchup. Not great, not bad, but decent, right? I would probably lean the Lad McConkey side of it. I think that you've got a pretty safe wide receiver 2 floor there. With Lad McConkey, with Drake London, I think he provides the bigger variable as far as points go, right? Like we could see him have a shining game and get into wide receiver 1 territory, but he could also, done what he's done the last month and provide you wide receiver 3 territory. whereas McConkey's been that pretty solid wide receiver 2 range. So I am going to lean on the McConkey side of that this week, right? The matchups there. I think the volume is there, and I think that we'll see a decent game on this one from McConkey. So really good questions, guys. And I do think that that's going to, that one does take us down to the end of the chat. Francis saying thanks. Most welcome. We'll be back on Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern as we, wrap things up there. And I want to hear everybody, hear all the outcomes and people let us know how their championship week turned out for them. And really look forward to seeing how that rock and rolls there and what that looks like. And then Mario saying go big or go home with London. That would be a play there for sure, right? And that's kind of that boom bust mentality. I don't mind it. I do think that McConkey is the safer floor there. So there is some of that some of that does kind of depend upon whether you need points or whether you need to, whether you just need to kind of survive that position and move on. So there is some of that also comes into play. Killer Kev 7 saying that sloppy weather for championship week. Yeah. And we kind of started off the show as well about the some of the weather and some of the games so far, right? These games, we're 3 games into week 17 already, with 3 more set to go tomorrow, and it's been really kind of a ho-hum type of deal there, right? That game on Saturday with the Chargers in New England, it's projected to be about 50 or about 40 degrees, about 50% chance of precipitation on there. So it could be slippery for sure. The wind doesn't look to be much of a factor in that one. But yeah, so there is some of that to kind of take into account there as well, right? Let's just take a look at the London side of things here. And Atlanta Commanders, right? The Commanders are projected to be about 60 degrees at around kickoff, 80% chance of precipitation, higher winds on this one. And so, I mean, it's Sunday night. It's going to be raining, could be quite heavy around that one. I think all of that leads me back to the McConkey side of things, where it might be precipitation, but it doesn't look to be as heavy and all of that. So that's kind of where I go. Kev saying they don't like 5 days of games. It does get to be a little much when you start looking at setting some of those rosters and setting some of those lineups, and you're having to make decisions on a Wednesday and going all the way to Monday, and a lot of games kind of fit throughout there. So I can certainly understand where that sentiment could come from. I really enjoy getting to watch all of those games though, and getting to have football on the TV every night. You're kind of rocking and rolling there. So Tyler over on YouTube saying hey, how's it going? It's doing well. And Tyler saying, looking for some help with my flex spot this week. Throw it out there. Let's see what the options are, Tyler. I do think that this one may be the last question here before we call it a night. So Tyler, let's go ahead and get it in the chat here and get it, see what we can see on your flex spot here. So some other things out there too, right? We talked about the weather on some of this stuff. There are some interesting matchups out there this week, but there's also some matchups that are kind of forgettable on this one, right? But I do think we'll see some interesting games and some good games, and it'll be interesting to see how that kind of all works out there. Tyler saying, got to decide between Adam Thielen, Jameson Williams, and Jaden McMillan. So, okay, really good question. Let's see what we've got here. Is it half point? Is it full point? What are we looking at as far as scoring goes, Tyler? Let's just kind of see while we're waiting to see on that one, and we can kind of start rocking and rolling through that. Okay, so he says it's a full point PPR. Adam Thielen, Jameson Williams, and Jalen McMillan is the options here. So, and Jalen McMillan has certainly been the hot hand for sure, right? Yeah, and when he's been putting up touchdowns, he is very firmly wide receiver 2 territory. I do like the matchup against Carolina this week. Adam Thielen has the matchup against Tampa Bay. It's not as good of a matchup there. And then our other option is Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, the Detroit has the San Francisco this week in San Francisco, so that could be it could be an interesting game there. But let's just kind of see where we're thinking Jameson Williams at. Okay. So, okay. I think you're looking at a bunch of wide receiver 3s for your flex territory, right? And so with that being said, all of these guys are kind of in the same tier for me. Tyler's saying, I feel like Carolina will be playing from behind for most of the game and they'll be passing a ton. They very well might. Carolina's been playing much, much better as of recent. And we very well may see them keep this thing somewhat close. Right? Like this is a deal that if they can keep the game script close, we could very well see a deal where Chuba Hubbard is used a ton. Adam Thielen certainly has been getting some pretty good volume, right? He's getting that 6-7 targets at least. And we saw Tampa Bay and Carolina play pretty close about 4 weeks ago in week 13. So I think this one, and it's a divisional matchup, these things are typically closer anyway. So it wouldn't surprise me that you see this thing end in a 20, 25, 22, 24, 20 type of matchup. Like that's kind of where I see this one playing out there. So not a ton of points on either side there. Jalen McMillan has been a touchdown dependent wide receiver, right? Like if he scores a touchdown, he's inside wide receiver 2 territory. If he doesn't, it's been rough, right? And he's seeing that kind of 7-8 targets. So the volume is there. The to rock and roll that. Jameson Williams is a big play just waiting to happen, right? Like so I do like the potential upside on that one. I do think that he's playing in the higher scoring game between these 3 players. So I do kind of like that. And I probably would lean on the Jameson Williams, Jaden McMillan, Adam Thielen, kind of in that order is how I think these guys will end up in kind of my final rankings when that's all set there. But that's kind of how I see that one there. Tyler asking, is Otten playing for Tampa? Let's take a look here and see, right? Cade Otten has been officially ruled out for week 17. So he is not playing, which that does does potentially free up some targets and really kind of cements Jalen McMillan as that wide receiver 2 option for Tampa Bay. But I think this is one of those that you've got 3 guys kind of all sandwiched in around each other in a wide receiver 3 territory, and between that, I think Jameson Williams is kind of the route that I would go with at that point. I think he provides an okay floor, but I think he provides a very, very high ceiling on this one. Jalen McMillan, I like the volume play for a floor type of thing. I like that he's got some potential for a pop week, for a boom week. And Adam Thielen, I think, is probably the floor of floor plays here. and really maybe in that touchdown dependent type of range there as well. Oh yeah, that's kind of how I rank that is Jameson, Jameson Williams, Jalen McMillan, Adam Thielen, kind of in that order. So, alrighty, guys, well, that is going to take us down to the end of it, and I do think that is going to do it for us tonight. Tyler saying basically go for Williams if I want the ceiling, go with McMillan for the volume. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good way to summarize that. I think I'm probably still leaning Jameson Williams, but I think McMillan provides you a safe enough floor when it's all said and done there. Again, though, right, the concern with McMillan is if he catches a touchdown, he's going to provide you a tight end or wide receiver 2 range. If he doesn't catch a touchdown, you're going to be lucky to get into wide receiver 50 territory. So there is some of that it would still proceed with caution, but I do think that McMillan certainly has a very hot hand there. But I would still be playing Williamson in my own lineups there, if that helps answer your question. Alrighty, so guys, that's gonna do it for me tonight. We'll be back on Monday night. The whole crew should be here. Kevin and Alex should be back on that one. And look forward to being able to see everybody come in and regale us with tales of victory here on Monday here. And Tyler saying, okay, thank you, brother, for the advice. Most welcome. Have a good night. Will do. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. That's gonna do it for me tonight. And for the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll be back again Monday night. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.